Hi everyone, welcome back to another video and to another one of my bonsai trees that you can see right here. In this case, what we have here is my Chinese pepper tree, which is a tree that is quite commonly used for indoor bonsai. You'll often find them in plant stores, so they are quite readily available. At least in the area where I am in Central Europe, but I think also in Northern America you find them quite often for indoor bonsai. And I do really like this variety. I like the structure of the leaves that is very, very particular for the tree. I like that the stem is really nice. It has this woody dark pattern that really makes the tree also look quite old right away. And I thought I would give you a quick update on this tree, how I care for it, what you might have to keep in mind when you get this variety as an indoor bonsai. And I would say let's dive right in by giving you a bit of an overview of the tree. What you can basically see here also is that I did some wiring to the tree. This is due to the fact that when I bought it, this actually had quite a different structure and a different form. It was actually more of a broom style bonsai, so all of this was basically up. It was very bushy on top. It was actually a bit weird looking, to be honest, because it has this lower branch here. It had some other lower branches down here, as you probably can still see where I cut them back. And it was very crowded. It didn't really look like a bonsai because you could really not see anything of the stem down here. So I decided to go in quite radically when I got it. I repotted it because the soil was quite dense. I used a different soil with more bark and more clay pebbles basically in it to simply give it a bit of an area, a more airy soil that it will thrive in. And then I also decided to right away rewire it a bit. I didn't cut it back that much except for those lower branches here, but I did start to rewire it, basically spreading it out as you can see here. Also, let me show you the backside, or what I consider the backside of the tree, where you probably can see the wires even a bit better. For example, here on this lower branch, this side branch here, that used to be basically the leader branch actually, that now I transformed into an upper side branch. And of course the side branching down here that I also wired. To basically spread it out a bit, give it a bit more shape than it had before. As I said, it was quite unshapely actually, so it did not really look like much in the beginning, but I think it's on a good way. Let me turn it around again to basically also see you how often these quite inexpensive pepper tree indoor bonsai are made. They are grown, of course, commercially. Then they are cut at the top. So on the sides, a new branch shoots out as the new leader to give it a bit of taper. But of course, you often, as for example, so here you have like this unsightly stump from where they cut it back. What my plan for it is right now is to still let this die back fully until it's really fully died back to the new branch back here, and then I will cut this one back a bit more. Right now I didn't want to go in too aggressively right away because I didn't want it to get then an infection from this part and have the low upper branch basically then die back. So right now I still shied away a bit from going in too drastically on this previous stump here that was created when it was grown commercially basically. As I said, basically it is kept as an indoor bonsai, so it does not do well in too low temperatures. Even in summer, I do prefer to keep it inside, even though next to a window that is basically almost open the entire summer, simply because I had another pepper tree before and it got quite severe burned on the leaves. So if you have not the possibility to give it also some shade outside, I would say just keep it inside in a bright location. So I have it in a west-facing window where it gets a lot of direct sunlight, and it does very well there. It did very well in winter, and also now spring and early summer. It's doing very well, has a lot of new growth, and is generally speaking, quite a healthy tree. What you will probably see when you get this tree is that a lot of the leaves will dry up and drop. That is simply very common for this tree that this happens. Basically, when you bring it to a new environment, the way it adapts is, or at least the way it adapted for me, was dropping, I would say, half of the leaves that have grown back, of course, afterwards, but it's very severe when you get it and you have it in a stressful situation. This tree will react with dropping a lot of leaves, so just be aware of that. Doesn't mean that the tree is gonna die completely. It just means it's a bit stressful for it to adapt to a new situation, and that's how the tree reacts then. But nothing to worry about too much. Also, when the seasons change, so from summer to autumn especially, you will see some leaves dropping. Especially for me, it was also the case last autumn that a lot of the leaves dropped. But as I said, it basically stabilizes over winter, and then come spring, a lot of new growth can be expected from this tree. As you can see, and as I mentioned, I did wire it. However, be careful when wiring it. If comparing it, for example, to a ficus, the wood is way more brittle. So when you wire it, support the wire when bending the branches, because otherwise there is a high risk of the branches just snapping. So always simply support basically the entire branch when you bend it to get a feeling of how much you can bend it without it snapping, as they are quite brittle. So definitely you can wire them, but I would always go a bit not too hard on it basically when it comes to wiring, and rather reapply the wire after a couple of weeks when it has stabilized in a certain position. That probably is a better way than to wire. Cutting back, to be honest, I have not done that much yet, simply thinning out new growth. Like here, there's, for example, a lot of new growth right now that I will thin out at a later point in summer. Right now, I'm letting it grow wildly a bit, simply as it was rewired for 6 months ago, I would say. Also repotted, I didn't want to also cut it back at the same time too much. So I'm basically just letting it settle in a new pot or in the new soil that it has in the pot. And after summer, probably I will cut back a lot of the new growth. But until then, I just let it grow freely. So let me give you again just an overview of the tree and the overall shape from all different sizes, all different sides, of course. You can see, of course, it's not fully there yet, I would say, but it is on a good way of becoming a quite nice looking bonsai. A lot of training that can be done with this tree, so a lot of practice regarding wiring, cutting back, repotting. So I see it really as a training tree that is a different species than ficus, because normally I do a lot of the training on my ficus trees. So definitely a Chinese pepper just changes things around a bit, giving you different variety to practice on. So definitely a variety that I can recommend, a variety that hopefully you will look further into. And yes, if you have any questions concerning this variety still, of course, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will get to them as soon as I see them, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.